there comes a point where you stop. You don't beg anymore. You don't chase. You don't explain yourself over and over to people who only listen when it suits them. You just stop. And it's in that exact moment, when your energy is no longer reaching for theirs, that something shifts. Not just in them, but in you. You've spent so long trying to be understood, trying to be enough, trying to hold together a connection that clearly wanted to unravel. You offered patience when it wasn't returned, gave effort when none came back, believed in the potential of someone who barely showed up in the present. And all along, they thought you'd never leave. Because people get comfortable with your effort, they expect it, they depend on it, they assume it'll always be there until it's not. And that's when they notice. Not when you cried, not when you explained your feelings, not when you pleaded for clarity. No, people notice the absence of effort more than the presence of it. They don't feel your love when you give it endlessly. They feel it when it stops arriving like clockwork, when the texts slow down, when the check-ins vanish, when you stop trying to fix what they kept breaking. That's the paradox. The day you stop trying is the day they realize you were the one carrying everything. But by then, you're exhausted, not angry, not bitter, just done. It's a quiet kind of surrender, not because you've lost, but because you finally understand something important. Your value isn't measured by how hard you try to be seen. It's measured by how willing you are to walk away when you're not. Stoicism isn't about feeling nothing. It's about mastering the art of not letting others control what you feel. It's about learning to choose peace over people, to choose stillness over emotional chaos. And when you let go, not out of spite, but out of clarity, that's when you step into your real power. They'll start to feel the void you once filled, not immediately, but it will come, in the silence, in the moments they used to count on you being there, saying the right thing, sending the message first, holding space for them when no one else did. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. And you'll feel it too. A strange kind of freedom. Painful, yes, but liberating. Because trying is heavy, especially when you're the only one doing it. And once you let that weight go, you begin to notice how much lighter your spirit becomes. That lightness feels unfamiliar at first, almost wrong, because you were so used to carrying the emotional weight, to being the one who held things together. But slowly, that emptiness starts to feel like space. Room to breathe, room to reflect, room to rebuild a version of yourself that isn't tied to someone else's neglect. And while you're healing in silence, they're slowly beginning to feel what you once felt. The uncertainty, the wondering, the silence that now greets their messages, the effort that's no longer guaranteed. They begin to question what happened, not because they miss who you were to them, but because they miss what you gave them. The safety, the consistency, the comfort of knowing someone cared deeply. But here's the catch. They don't miss you when you're around. They miss you when your absence becomes undeniable. And that's not love. That's dependency. You were never meant to be someone's emotional cushion. You were meant to be someone's equal, a soul that's met with the same level of care, presence, and commitment. And once you stop trying, you begin to see how little they were truly offering. Because when someone genuinely values you, they don't make you work so hard just to feel seen. They don't take your effort as a given, they match it. And in that silence, you grow, not into someone cold or hardened, but into someone wise, someone who knows that trying is only meaningful when it's mutual, someone who now understands the difference between persistence and self-neglect. Stoicism teaches this kind of detachment, not out of apathy, but out of strength, to love without losing yourself, to give without begging, to stay soft, but not foolish. And that's the path you've chosen now. They may come back, they may not, but it won't matter, because the day you stopped trying wasn't the end, it was the beginning of your return to yourself, to your peace, to your power. You'll still remember them, the moments, the words, the versions of you that tried, but you'll look at it with a calm heart, not a craving one. That's when you'll know you've healed. There's a beautiful kind of stillness that grows inside you when you finally let go of needing to be chosen. When you're no longer waiting for a message, an apology, a sign that they finally understand what you meant to them. That stillness doesn't come all at once. It arrives slowly, on the other side of tears, long nights, and the deafening silence that follows your last effort. But once it arrives, it changes everything. You begin to see people more clearly, not through the lens of who you want them to be, but through the reality of who they've shown themselves to be. You stop romanticizing inconsistency. You stop defending the bare minimum. You stop mistaking emotional unavailability for strength. And in that clarity, you feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Self-respect. It wraps around you quietly, not with pride, but with peace. The kind of peace that doesn't need to announce itself. It just is. Because for the first time, you're no longer at war with yourself. No longer trying to convince someone that you're worthy of the love you were already giving freely. And that's when your energy changes. People start to feel it, not because you've said anything, but because your presence no longer carries that subtle ache, that invisible request to be seen. Now, you walk differently, you speak with calm, you respond slower, you no longer explain your worth, you embody it. They notice. Oh, they notice. The same people who once ignored your effort begin to feel the absence of your energy. They circle back, often confused by the version of you that no longer revolves around them. But what they're really reacting to isn't your coldness, it's your clarity. They're not used to it. They were used to you trying, always trying, and when you no longer do, it exposes something uncomfortable in them. Their lack of effort, their emotional laziness, their inability to meet you where you stood for so long. But now, it's not your responsibility to teach them. You've already spent too much time trying to be understood in a language they weren't willing to learn. Now, your silence teaches more than your words ever could. And here's the most powerful part. You no longer care how they interpret your silence, because it's not for them, it's for you. It's a boundary, a reclaiming, a sacred space you've built around your heart, not to keep love out, but to make sure what comes in is real. Somewhere along the way, you stop looking back, not because you've erased the past, but because you've made peace with it. You no longer carry it around like a wound that needs attention. It becomes a part of your story, but not the whole story. Not the chapter you reread when things feel quiet. Just a lesson, a reminder, a moment that shaped you but doesn't define you. Because the day you stopped trying was the day you reclaimed your energy, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You realize that effort is sacred, and it should never be wasted on people who treat it like a convenience. And as time moves forward, you begin to meet others who recognize that energy, people who don't need convincing, who see your depth, your patience, your loyalty, and meet it with their own, with presence, with gratitude, with effort that feels natural, not conditional. That's when you understand why it had to happen this way, why the people who didn't value you had to drift, why the silence was necessary, why the pain was the doorway. Because without it, you wouldn't have found this version of you, the one who no longer chases, pleads, or explains. The one who understands that love isn't proven by how hard you try to keep someone. It's shown in how deeply you love yourself when they don't. This is Stoicism, not detachment from emotion, but mastery over it. Not coldness, but clarity. Not indifference, but inner peace. And when you carry that into your life, everything changes. Your relationships change. Your priorities change. Your whole energy shifts from proving to simply being. So let them realize your worth in their own time. But don't wait around for it. You already know. You already feel it. And now you're living like it. Because the day you stopped trying wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning of everything.